Title: Reddit's Scariest Confessions Too Dark for the Mainstream. Have you ever wondered what people are really thinking? What they hide behind a screen and an anonymous name? Some confessions are so dark, so messed up, that they can't be talked about on mainstream sites. Before we start, I have to say, these stories are presented as they were written, as anonymous unburnings. They come from corners of the internet, like our confession, places where people go to scream into the void. They are not verified. We can only hope they aren't real. We begin with a secret that festered inside a family home. A quiet horror that someone was forced to live with, and I can't stop thinking about it. Story 1. The Guest in the Walls. This person starts their post by talking about their childhood home. It was old. And old houses make noises, right? That's what their parents kept telling them. The creaks, the groans of the pipes, the scratching sounds from the attic. It was all just the house settling. But even as a kid, they knew something was wrong. The scratching wasn't random. It was rhythmic. And there were other things. Food would just disappear from the pantry. Not a ton, just enough to make you feel like you were going crazy. A loaf of bread, some cans of soup. When they'd ask their parents, the answers were always off. Their mom would say, "Oh, I must have forgotten to buy more," but she wouldn't make eye contact. Their dad would just grumble mice and set a trap that never, ever caught anything. As they got older, it got so much harder to ignore. Their dad would lock the attic door from the outside, but sometimes they'd find it unlocked in the morning. They started noticing extra plates in the sink late at night, long after everyone was supposed to be asleep. The air in the house was thick with this unspoken tension. Their parents, who used to be so open, were now guarded and secretive. The writer talks about this creeping dread, this feeling of being an actor in their own life, but not knowing any of the lines. The idea of someone else living in the house, hidden away, started to feel like the only thing that made sense. Then comes the part that, honestly, it makes my stomach hurt to read. It's a hot summer day, and their parents are out, which almost never happened. They're driven by this desperate need to just know the truth, so they find the spare key to the attic. Their heart is pounding as they unlock the door and pull the string for the stairs. The air that hits them is stale and smells awful, like sweat and old laundry. The attic was supposed to be for storage, but a corner of it was cleared out. There was a stained mattress on the floor, some dirty blankets, a bucket being used as a toilet, and a few books. But no one was there. They felt this mix of relief and just absolute terror. They were about to leave when they saw it. A small framed photo on a makeshift table. It was a picture of their mom, younger, next to a man they'd never seen. And tucked into the frame was a yellowed newspaper clipping. The headline was faded, but they could just make out the words. Local man wanted for questioning in disappearance case. The man in the newspaper photo, it was him. The man from the picture. He had been living right above their head for their entire life. They never said a word. They never confronted their parents. The confession ends with this: I moved out at 18 and never went back. Sometimes I check the cold case files online. He's still listed as a missing person. My parents protected a fugitive, and by staying silent, I did too. I don't know if he's still there, in that attic. I don't want to know. Okay, I need a breath. That story, it's a fear that's real, tangible. But this next one, it leaves that behind and goes somewhere else entirely. It's a glitch in reality, something that happened on a lonely road that makes you question everything. Story 2. The Echo on the Highway. This story comes from a long-haul trucker. He says he's spent decades on the road and has seen some weird stuff, but this one was different. It didn't just scare him. It felt fundamentally wrong. He was on a desolate highway in Nevada, one of those 2-lane roads that just cuts through nothing. It's around 3 a.m. He hasn't seen another soul for hours. The road is dead straight, so you can see headlights from miles away. So he sees a pair of them in the distance, and he feels that little bit of relief, just knowing someone else is out there. He watches the lights get closer and closer. A single car in the other lane. But then, this is where it gets weird. Right when the car should have passed him, the lights just vanished. He blinks. He thinks he's just tired. Maybe he's spaced out. But the road is completely empty. No turnoffs, no side roads. Nowhere for a car to go. He just shakes his head and keeps driving. About 10 minutes later, it happens again. The exact same pair of headlights. They get closer, and then just wink out of existence, right before they should pass him. Now he's completely unnerved. The hair on his arms is standing up. This isn't just fatigue. He's wide awake. He slows his truck way down, his eyes glued to the dark horizon. And a third time, the headlights appear. This time, he doesn't blink. He watches as the shape of a vehicle forms around the lights. It's a truck, a semi-truck, just like his. Same model, same color. He can just make out the logo on the side. It's his company's logo. His blood runs cold. He's watching himself approach. He describes this moment of just pure mind-breaking panic. He's gripping the steering wheel. His brain just can't catch up to what his eyes are seeing. This duplicate truck is heading straight for him, in his lane. A mirror image, a ghost, hurtling toward him in the night. He braces for the crash, a scream stuck in his throat. And at the very last second, the other truck swerves. Not onto the shoulder, but straight into the empty desert, and just disappears. It doesn't crash. There's no dust cloud. It just stops existing. He slams on his brakes, his whole rig jackknifing on the empty road. He just sits there for what he says felt like an hour, shaking in the total silence. He never drove that route again. He ends the post asking, "What did I see? Was it a warning? A premonition? Or did I just drive through a crack in the world?" A break in reality is one thing, but this last story gets worse somehow. It brings us back to a horror that is terrifyingly human. It's a confession of guilt for a crime that can never, ever be undone. Story 3. The summer of '98. This final confession is from someone haunted by something they did when they were a kid. The user, let's call him Mark, was 16 back in the summer of '98. He needed money for a car, so he took a summer job with a local businessman. This guy was charming, well-liked, the kind of guy everyone in town knew. The job started out simple, mowing lawns, painting, normal stuff, and the pay was incredible. But as the summer went on, the jobs got strange. The man started asking Mark to do things late at night. First, it was just dropping a sealed package at a PO box. Then it got worse. He was told to transport things in a work van, things that were always hidden under tarps. The instructions were always the same. Don't look, don't ask, just drive. The man asked in a way that wasn't really asking. He sounded friendly, but his eyes were just cold. Mark knew something was deeply wrong, but he was a kid, He was scared of the man, but he was also mesmerized by the cash. He felt trapped. The confession focuses on the final week of August. The businessman tells Mark he has one last job, the biggest one. The bonus he offers is more money than Mark has ever seen. The instructions are precise. Pick up the van at a specific spot at 11 p.m. Drive it to an abandoned logging road deep in the state forest. Leave the van at the end of the road, keys in the ignition, doors unlocked, and just walk away. Don't look back. A car would be waiting to pick him up. Mark says the drive was the most terrifying night of his life. The van felt heavy. He could hear this soft thudding sound from the back, from under the tarp. He tried to tell himself it was just equipment, but he knew it wasn't. He thought about stopping, about looking, but he was just paralyzed by fear. He did exactly what he was told. He parked the van, left the keys, and walked into the dark, his heart pounding. The pickup car was there. The driver didn't say a word. The next day, the businessman gave him a thick envelope of cash and said, "You had a good summer, son. I don't think I'll be needing you anymore." 2 days later, a woman from the next town over was reported missing. Her car was found at a grocery store. She was never seen again. Mark said he threw up when he saw her face on the news. The police investigation went nowhere. The van was old and unregistered. It was never found. The businessman had an alibi. Mark was never even questioned. He quit, hid the money, and never spent any of it. He ends the confession like this. It's been over 25 years. The businessman died of a heart attack a decade ago. The case is ice cold, but I see her face every single day. I don't know for sure if she was in the back of that van, but in my soul, I know she was. This confession is the only time I have ever told anyone. I was a coward. I was greedy. And I helped someone get away with murder. These stories, they come from the anonymous corners of the internet, but they feel so chillingly real. It's a terrifying reminder that behind every username, there's a person with secrets we can't even begin to imagine. Thank you for listening. If you feel compelled to explore more stories like these, you know what to do. Be sure to like, subscribe, and maybe share your thoughts on these confessions below. After all, some secrets just refuse to stay buried.